Thank you for joining the Revenue Optimists. We're a space where go-to-market leaders and revenue operations folks can come together, really help learn from one another in order to grow their businesses. My name is Dave Nelson, and today I'm very fortunate to be joined by Sacha Bakht, who is the director of global sales operations at Volante, and previous to that at Salesforce. So, Sacha, thank you very much for joining us. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself?
For sure. Thanks, Dave, for having me. I guess just high level, I think a lot of people get to sales operations or revenue operations roles from various paths. So for me, it's pretty circuitous, long path. Started my career a million years ago at a university in sales, kind of pursued an MBA and got myself into finance and did FP&A, financial planning analysis, for many years at different companies. And then kind of found my sweet spot, doing all the things I love, like analytics, process, getting close to sales and marketing in sales operations. So it was a winding path to kind of find the place that, this is that sweet spot in between departments and where the action is in my mind in sales operations. So that's kind of how I got to where I got.
That's great. Well, I think it gives a lot of great background too to help in that role. If you came from sales, obviously you've been on that side of the fence, but FP&A as well, that'll lead to a ton of planning and prep for sales operations too.
Definitely. Yeah. It helps to speak the language of the various departments you're going to be talking to. So, and sort of code switching between, how they like to look at things.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Maybe tell us a little bit more about Volante and what they do.
Totally, yeah. So Volante is it's a fintech, and they provide cloud and payment solutions and financial messaging solutions mainly to large banks, mid-sized banks, some financial institutions as well. And what they're trying to do is essentially accelerate digital transformation within the payment space. A lot of banks, especially the big ones, sort of have old legacy systems, which makes processing payments, quite cumbersome. So what we try to offer is a new cloud solution that will be better than what was there before. So we already have a bunch of 4 of the top 5 big banks in the US use Volante already. So we're the leader in space.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's great. Very cool. And what does the sales team look like at Volante?
Yeah, so we're broken up regionally. We've got a North America team, a LATAM team, a Middle East team, and a Europe and Africa team. So very globally distributed because of the nature. We're focused on those larger banks, and to capture them all, we kind of need to have a global presence. So that's the way we go about it. And we're a product company, but sort of our roots we're going to be in professional services and sort of building a platform product that the banks could use to build their own sort of systems, which has migrated into sort of more of an end-to-end product. So we have kind of 2 streams there.
I know that you're an expert in kind of total addressable market. How do you look at that today in Volante, and how does that compare to previous businesses?
We have a pretty defined kind of group of banks. And so the original TAM itself are kind of defined by the company. A lot of it has to do with who can buy our products and when, and which and our product roadmap and which features will kind of be available. Where it gets really interesting is when the TAM is that larger group of companies that can buy our products. We also then define a SAM, and that's going to be who's ready to buy the products that are ready, in the next 6 months or the next
kind
12.
Of a serviceable, obtainable market versus 10. Yeah,
exactly. So we've kind of done a lot of work and cleanup to, reduce to focus the reps just on those accounts that are sort of ready to buy. Because at Volante, we're building a product, adding features regularly, and so, development resources are scarce at all times. So you have to decide what direction to go in and which features to add, which payment rails to add in given countries at a given time. So, it's easy to get thrown off course if someone brings a really interesting opportunity that's not really on the roadmap now. Maybe you make that pivot, but it has implications for everybody else. So defining the SAM has been really interesting from a regional perspective because it lets you kind of focus on those accounts where, yeah, we're going to have the product that you want to sell in that upcoming period.
Yeah, I believe it. And so does that then trickle down into your territories and the number of reps that you need to hire and whatnot?
It does. It does. Yeah. We're kind of always looking at creating. You always want to create a territory that's going to be balanced and have enough opportunity for a rep to really hit their targets and be successful as a company at the same time. So as the product roadmap opens up or changes in the future, that can define, do we want to invest in new reps in a certain area and all the infrastructure that goes around it, whether it's pre-sales,
Yeah.
product.
It's not just the one rep, is it? Yeah.
No, it never is. And then there's all the shared services that kind of like sales operations that focus on them as well.
Gotcha. Okay, so in this case, the Volante, you guys have a pretty defined TAM and SAM, smaller focus, which is great. The more niche you can get, the more targeted you can be. But you have also worked at other organizations. What did it look like there, and how did you approach that TAM, and how did that then trickle down into all of the rest of the operations side of things?
Yeah, I think some ways we've done it in prior companies are in addition to regional kind of breakups, you might have a vertical breakups. So you might have reps that are in my professional services background, you might have reps that focus on individual verticals like financial services or not-for-profits or what have you. And that's a helpful way for the reps to sort of become experts, in that particular type of client, as well as the services that we're selling to that client. One really, I like to try to math it out if possible, and have a process that you can have some fairness to, and then add adjustments after the fact. So one really interesting thing we've done is if you had like a set of 5 products, for example, you might price out what the average price for those 5 products are. Let's take a round number, say it's $100,000 a product, so $500,000. So each account, if they hadn't purchased anything with us in the past, would be worth $500K. But then you'd adjust for customers, and you'd say, okay, well, these customers already have 3 of our products, so they're worth $200K in terms of booking opportunity. And then also you can layer in, well, these customers are not likely to buy those products, so let's remove some of that. And then you can kind of create a dollar value for your territory opportunity. So that you can create some level of fairness from a dollar perspective rather than just number of accounts. I'll say all that, you got to caveat it with, win rates are going to be different for your upsells, better for upsells versus new business. So unless you've got a hunter-gatherer kind of mix for your sales reps, you're going to want to make sure there's balance there in terms of opportunity with existing customers as well as new prospects.
Interesting. Okay, I like that. And so did you actually operationalize that by scoring accounts kind of thing for what their dollar value might be worth?
We did, yeah. We'd even tier it. So, as I described there, maybe your, tier 1 larger customers would have a higher value looking at their average values. You'd make their numbers larger versus mid-size. And so, yeah, we did that on an account by account basis, and you can kind of get as granular as is practical given the accounts that you've got. One of the things we do at Volante is, as we're defining those SAM accounts, because it is a smaller group, we might even go down to the level of, well, we know this customer is locked up with a competitor for the next 7 years. So we're going to take that out of the SAM because we're not going to have any really valuable conversations from a sales perspective, but keep them in the TAM because we can still market to them and make sure that they're aware who we are for the future. So you can get that granular if it's practical and you have the intelligence.
Gotcha. And how about when it's not, when there's too big a market, right? When it's not as defined as just all the big banks, how do you
Yeah,
kind of operationalize that to get through the volume?
then you use the data you have in terms of what are the average prices that you're getting for your products, and apply a bit of a blanket brush there. You say, okay, well, we've come up with these 5 products, these average prices. We'll apply them to these prospects that are out there, and price out sort of the upside value. And knowing you're only going to get a certain percentage of that penetration, you just figure out what is the penetration that's required, whether it's number of accounts or number of products, to have a successful sales rep and a successful company. Both of those things need to be aligned, and I think that's how you get the best results when you set up a system where the reps feel like they have what they need to be successful, and that ladders up to the company as well.
So when you're going through that, maybe less so when you're trying to establish a new TAM or going after a new market. When you're going after existing, how do you look at penetration of the TAM, and how much have you consumed already versus how much still greenfield is out there?
Yeah, no, it's great. Like, we're one of the basic ways to do it is the starting point is you've got your defined list of accounts, TAM or SAM, and how many are customers and how many are not. That gives you a really high level percentage assumption. And maybe you've said, okay, well, to have a successful year for our reps and for our company, we need to have X amount of dollars, which you can translate into X amount of penetration. That's one thing. Another thing we look at is which accounts have had an opportunity, either won or lost, in a given period of time that makes sense. Maybe it's the last 3 months, and then that can help define, okay, well, is there a pocket of accounts here that haven't had a recent kind of interactions from an opportunity perspective? So let's go focus on those. We might have a blitz, pipe gen blitz to go after them. And then going another level of granularity is looking at the activities and seeing, how many have had any conversations at all, even if there's no opportunities. And again, kind of who's sort of not been touched. Maybe there's reasons for that. Maybe and you can kind of look at those as one-offs. But that's kind of the way we look at penetration in 3 levels.
Nice. Oh, I love that. You mentioned pipeline blitz. What does that look like for you guys in order to create new pipe? And particularly it could be a Volante or it could be previous, where you don't have a footprint in an account so far. It's easier when, of course, you do, as you said, the hunter farmer. But when you're hunting, how have you seen to successfully go about generating pipe?
I find a lot of it can be sort of content driven. So you kind of think about, what's new in terms of what your product is doing in terms of a market trend. An example from Volante is, a lot of what's driving decisions on these kind of big purchases for banks is new regulatory standards around payments that different countries are adopting at different speeds. So when it's one of those things that's on the minds of the people making these purchase decisions. So we talk about, okay, this is what Volante is doing for this in this niche. Maybe you have a white paper around it. Maybe you have a webinar. Maybe you have a customer story about it. And that content can drive, a marketing campaign or a set of campaigns. You can see what the success rate of that is from usual marketing metrics like MQLs and conversion metrics. But then you can also run a similar campaign with your inside sales or your sales folks and look at their metrics in terms of opportunities created, and eventually how do those opportunities do from a pipeline perspective? Do they get won, and what are the rates around that? So I find the blitzes based on content can be pretty effective, and even if they're not, even if they're based on sort of a group of untouched accounts for a while, the thing that really can make it happen is that visibility. It's amazing. We started doing a weekly demand gen update and having a leaderboard. You're not trying to call people too much, but my God, it works right away. It makes a difference. And you just have to balance it with let's make sure that what's being created is quality, and there's some checks on that side of that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that Volante, you have a fairly established, defined set of customers or potential or TAM. I'm imagining you want to continue to expand. So is the play there for like product expansion and additional offerings, or how do you map that? How do you grow that TAM, if you will, that's not growing the customer base, maybe it's growing the offerings?
Yeah, I think it's for us, there's sort of a lot of space in those existing accounts. I think maybe right now it's we started our business kind of focused on those really large tier one banks. We've opened up more into the mid-sized banking group, and eventually, when our product, I think, gets it gets a little bit more features and has been around for some time, then you can kind of deal with more price sensitive customers at the lower end of the market. But I think we know that what that evolution is going to look like, and there's just a lot of space to grow. So a lot of it is sort of the decisions around what's the most efficient use of product creation resources, development resources, to what's the best bang for the buck in terms of what the next feature or product rail is going to be. And it's a push and pull. And I think sometimes it's a matter of, oh, well, there's this really interesting opportunity, sales is uncovered, which might pivot or shift the direction of where product is going to go. So keeping that, we have this deal desk function, and it's a forum where we get together product, engineering, go-to-market, sales, marketing, and we discuss, look, this is a non-standard deal. It's not on the roadmap. It's outside of one of the TAM countries that we're focused on. But so there's something interesting here. Do we want to potentially pursue this? Does the timeline work? And those kinds of forums are where we might change or adjust the product roadmap and eventually increase the TAM.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Listen, Sacha, I appreciate you running us through all that. Thank you very much for joining. We've run out of time here, but yeah, I loved all the advice you have. And thank you to everyone who's joined. If you want to hear more, please follow us on social or go to the website, and you can actually receive all the updates on any future episodes. So, Sacha, thank you very much again.
Thanks a lot, David. Really appreciate it.
All right. Take care.